Welcome to the 4 Pillars of Men's Health, a podcast of resources for restoring vigor and vitality, bringing you top influencers in the men's health arena, case studies of men who have succeeded and how they did it, and cutting-edge teaching on men's health issues from America's leading men's health guru, Dave Skattum. Get ready to take steps towards good health. Here's your host, Dave Skattum.
I have a firm belief that every one of us has this unique journey to good health, steps that we've taken, journeys that we've traveled. That's why I'm so excited about these podcasts I've been doing, or I've been interviewing guys I know and have met that have reached some kind of a level of good health and sharing their stories about their particular journey. Each one of us is so unique, and it's so inspirational to me to hear everybody's stories about how they did it and the things they're working on, maybe the things they messed up on. But today I'm really excited to have on my podcast a good friend of mine who I've known for years, and his name is Henry Kriegel. And I know that he's a really proud father of a beautiful daughter, and I know that he invests a lot of time now. I really appreciate that about Henry. He's also really involved in politics. He's a professional political guy, and he really has a passion to make America a better place to live for each one of us, and he really lives that out in his life. And I just want to say a big welcome to Henry Kriegel. Thanks for joining the 4 Pillars of Men's Health, Henry.
Thank you, Dave, for the invitation. Glad to be here.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on this, because you always come up with some whiz-banger things, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm curious, just not really relating to health, or it could be relating to health, but what is getting you up in the morning these days? What's on the front burner with Henry Kriegel?
These days, I think about what's going on in our world. And I returned from a 2-3 week trip to Australia in mid-March, back to America,
really?
Back to Montana.
Wow.
Yep. And we had a great time touring the Blue Mountains, being in South Queensland on the coast, and just visiting some friends and family. When we came back here, we returned just in the nick of time before travel became very difficult under the COVID-19 pandemic. And life has been very different since returning back to America. And what I've seen, and what I wake up to every day as a professional political activist, is constantly trying to balance out keeping myself, my family, my community safe while maintaining our freedoms. And I see our liberties being encroached upon these days by the shelter-at-home order, the restrictions on conducting business, the governor determining what's an essential business, what's a non-essential business. I see people struggling out there, and I can sense the level of anxiety regarding the ability to earn an income, provide for one's family. And I'm here trying to say, hey, we can be safe, we can get back to work. Let's not do things that are going to create more harm than the actual medical health problem at issue right now. So that's what gets me going every day since returning. And I've worked harder, Dave. I got to tell you, I've worked harder since returning from Australia than I've had the previous year or two.
And that's an intriguing thing, the contrast between how it was when you left and now how it is when you got back. That's a pretty amazing story there. Hey, one thing that I think of when I think of like a healthy man, I think of these the Greek and Roman times when these great artists were chiseling out these statues of what they thought was like an ideal man. And I have this picture in my mind of going to Rome or Greece or wherever and seeing these great statues of like the perfect man that these guys chipped out of marble. And I'm just curious, when you ponder that, and when you think about, okay, here's up on this column, here's this perfect man What do you see? Perfectly healthy man. How do you interpret that? What do you think of when you think of a perfectly healthy guy?
Now, that is also another great question, David. I don't really think of the Greek and Roman statues.
Yeah.
I don't look for outer perfection when I think about what makes a healthy man. Just like I don't look for a wealthy person when I think of a prosperous man. If you're healthy, you've got good, meaningful relationships with your friends and family. If you're healthy, you're free from major disease or health challenges that limit your freedom and your ability just to live life. If you're healthy, you eat well, you exercise, you get the proper nutrition and water and sunshine and all the good things that keep oneself healthy. If you're healthy, you laugh, you have joy, you experience the wide range of emotions that people have. You don't suppress them for another day, because that will lead to illness, as one knows.
That is so interesting to me, Henry, when you said, when you think of a healthy person, relationships, good relationships, disease-free, and really trying to be a healthy person. One of the things that when I wrote my book, one of the things that my editor had me do is he said, go to Barnes & Noble and go to the men's health section and take a look. We're trying to make a cover for my book. So he said, go there and take a look at and get some ideas. And, I looked through the men's health section, and almost I think there's 90 to 95% of the books there were, pictures of big burly guys who, spend hours and hours at the gym. And I so much agree with you that, that's good, healthy stuff, but it's not everything. It's like a portion of being good health, having good relationships with people, being disease-free, and not being hooked on some kind of weird drugs that builds muscles or whatever, and eating well and exercise and rest. When you look back over your life, what kind of struggles, or what you just said that having good relationships and being disease-free, eating right, exercise, all those things are a sign of good health. When you look back, or when you think of yourself being at an unhealthy place in your life, what was that like for you?
Let me share with you challenges that I've experienced that have had longer-term repercussions that I've had to just simply measure up to. And I will do a fairly good dose of honesty here. I'd say living through my second divorce was really difficult. Yeah. It was really difficult, very painful, and costly on many levels for me. Was something I know I needed to do, and I suffered financially as a result. I wound up pretty much raising my daughter alone from her age of 14 till her mid-20s, and I found that to be a challenge. I had to remake my career because I left the business that myself and my ex-wife co-created, and I had to sort of reinvent myself. I took a leadership role in some of these in an emerging new political movement that was very innovative, but also met with a considerable amount of opposition. So that was not easy, and all that was happening concurrently. So those were difficult times for me. Now, how did I get through those difficult times? I just had to embrace it. I didn't ignore it. I didn't run away from it. I simply had to embrace the challenge and embrace the moment. And thankfully, I had a good core of friends to support me. And I practiced everything that I knew to do in order to manage it. And I do believe at the very core of a healthy man is his relationship to his Creator. If you have that relationship, if you know how to lean on and to give to your Creator that which you cannot handle, you can get through pretty much anything.
I want to dig a little deeper here. You said one of the things the way that you dealt with this, because we're talking. There's people out there right now who are in that place right now. They're going through this pretty difficult time in a relationship with another person, like a divorce or whatever. And you said the key thing was embrace the difficult times. Practically speaking, what's that look like? What happened there? How did you do that? Like specifically, what are some things that you did to embrace those difficult times? And how did that turn into a positive thing for you?
First of all, I didn't really have much choice. It was either I embraced the reality that's before me, or I literally and could on many levels just die a slow death. That was my choice. Yeah. I mean, literally, I was left. My ex-wife left the state, giving me less than a week notice. Left all the bills behind, left our daughter behind, and took off to California. Yeah. And I had the mortgage for the home. Unfortunately, I refinanced to pay off debts we incurred. I had to fight through personal bankruptcy because of the mismanagement that occurred at the business when they misused my personal account to fund the business after I left. Yeah. And what I had to do was make some very difficult choices. I had a very limited set of choices before me, and I had to make the best choice possible given those limitations. So I did things that were very uncomfortable for me, like I did file for bankruptcy. And I found that to be extremely difficult because I believe in self-sustainability. But under those circumstances, when I had someone who was deliberately putting me in that position, I had to just do what I had to do because I had to survive and provide and take care of my kid. And I had to move forward with what I believed I'm here to do in terms of my personal mission in this life. And I wasn't going to let this stop me. And I'll tell you, David, I made difficult choices. I got the best help I could find, and I went forward. It wasn't perfect. I did make some mistakes, but I did get the support that I needed, and I did sort of reinvent myself in the process, and got back to the things that I love to do, which is I love to speak, I love to write, I love to be with people who love liberty and freedom, and I love to help them get their voice heard and make a difference. Yeah. And so that's what I did, and it was kind of it was like a renaissance for me. Yeah, it was tough, it was hard, but I was becoming more of who I really was. Yeah. And so that's how I did it. Now that sounds pretty general and pretty vague, but the first thing is acknowledging the fact that the reality, acknowledging, accepting the reality before you, having a connection with your Creator. However you define that, whether it's God, Jesus, the Buddha, however you define that, and nurture that relationship because you need the spiritual connection to get you through. Yeah. Have a small group of core friends that you can rely on. And make sure you do the basics to take care of your health, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health. Of course, the spiritual health I alluded to first. Make sure you take care of that. And take care of your loved ones, and just do the best you can, and continue to move forward, and not look too far ahead into the future. Have plans, have a goal, and take it step by step, and continue to move forward no matter what. Because at the end of the day, there wasn't going to be the cavalry wasn't going to come to rescue me. There wasn't going to be a cavalry running in to rescue Henry in his bankrupt state and after he lost the home. I had to figure out how to do that. And I pushed myself. And I was brought to the right people. I found a really nice place to live in Bozeman. I kept a sense of constancy from my kid through high school. We lived comfortably. I worked with good friends. And I continued to pursue my passion, and that led me to the right place. And I had to make some difficult decisions, and I had to work really hard. I had to exceed expectations because I felt like, emerging through what the challenges I was experiencing that were publicly known, I had to exceed the expectations for whatever I did.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to do.
Wow.
So after a period of time, people respect you for it. They say, hey, look what this guy went through. Look what he overcame. Look what he's doing today. Look what he's doing now. That's the character of a man. Like Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't measure the character of man during times of solace and comfort. You measure that man's character during times of challenge. I'm paraphrasing. But it's totally true. When things are good, it's easy to be a nice person. It's easy to care for everybody else. But when things are challenging, that's when the true person shows themselves. That's when the true person emerges. That can either be a nasty, vindictive, angry self, or it can be your better self. We get to choose.
Yeah.
Dave, I just want to be clear that, despite all the challenges I had with my ex-wife over the years, with the financial challenges and that which happened through the divorce, I just want to be clear that, I've worked on, first of all, I had to forgive myself for being in the position I was in, and for any and all mistakes that I made that may have hurt her or anybody else. Then I also worked on forgiving her. And so actually, over the years, have softened my feelings and have much more compassion for her, understanding the significant challenges that she has faced and faces today. So I try to keep an amicable, positive, and respectful relationship, although it's very limited.
Yeah, and I get that. Relationships are just tough, and when you go through hard things with other people, it's just like it can be very overwhelming and difficult. And I applaud you for coming out of that. And I think that's part of being healthy, is just being able to finally say, you know what, I'm working on forgiving this person and being able to wish them well and move on in life. So good job.
Absolutely. I thank you, and I think that's important. Part of the conversation that we're having for men's health.
For success, you said, number one, acknowledge where you're at. Number two, connect with your creator, cultivate that relationship. Number three, connect with a group of friends who you can depend on. Number four, take care of your health. Number five, take small steps. And number six, work hard, work your rear end off. That's like, if we did that, all of our life, that would be like an amazing thing for each one of us. That's like a great plan for success.
Yeah, but I would also add number 7, never lose sight of your goal. Have a clear vision for what you want to do and what you want to be, and never lose sight of it. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. You could write a book about that, Henry.
Well, thanks. I'll speak about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, so here's where I want to go.
I'd rather have you do the chapter right now. Okay.
Okay.
Put that in the chapter.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm always curious about, we all go through in our early life, especially, we all have these different experiences, and a lot of us go through some really hard things with early childhood or childhood years. Some of us breeze through it, no problem. But we all have these unique experiences. And I'm just curious, when I talk to guys, about when you look back over your life, what are some things that maybe some people you met, or maybe it was some situations that came up, good or bad, but what are some things that happened in your past that you can look back on and say, that point in my life when that thing happened, or when I met that person, that made a huge difference in my life and really turned a corner for me. Can you think of some key times in your life where that happened for you?
Leaving New York City was the best thing I've ever done. Leaving New Rochelle, living in New York City, where I grew up. Why? Because where I grew up was a big drug culture thing going on. Some of my friends or people that I knew never made it out of New York alive. They never made it out of their, late teens alive. And if they did make it out alive, they were, I don't know. I'm re-engaging with some of them through Facebook, but there are a lot of them who just were kind of stuck. And I traveled around the country when I was 20 years old. It was my goal to get out of New York City, went to college upstate for 2 years, and I was going to take time off. So I traveled by backpack throughout the U.S. and had some great experiences on the road in Colorado, in California, up and down the coast, up to Vancouver and back. I had some profound experiences, and I was really transformed by by the travels and the people I met. So when I came back to New York City, back to the Bronx, I felt trapped, and I was longing to get out. And I was hoping to get out quickly, but I got snowed in twice, major snowstorms in '77 that pretty much crippled everything from east of the Mississippi down to Texas. And so I got stuck there. And I finally was able to get the heck out of the Bronx, and I decided to finish up my college, and I moved out west, and ultimately moved out west. But getting out of the culture in which I grew up so I can just be who I was a huge accomplishment. So that was really big. Meeting certain people along the way who acted as mentors for me, who was able to support me and give me the unconditional support and love that you need to excel. If you don't get it from your family, you got to get it somewhere. I mean, you need a place where no matter whether you fail or succeed, that person is going to love you regardless. Yeah. So I had those people in my life, thankfully. Yeah. Not many. You don't need a lot. You just need a few. And I had that, so I was able to successfully get out from where I grew up, and which, when I was there as a teenager, I got into the drug culture, and it was a little iffy for me for a few years, but I knew I needed to get out of it. And so getting out of the city was my passport to my own personal freedom. And I rarely ever looked back.
Yeah, sometimes just moving geographically can have a huge impact on who you are as a person and where you end up. And so that's...
Especially if I might add, if you have the intent to move and to, as part of your own personal self-transformation. Because if you just simply move from place to place and expect things to be different, you'll be disabused of that rather quickly. Because essentially, wherever you go, I used to say the people remain the same. It's only the names and faces that change. Because people are people wherever you go. But you have to have the intent to change and self-transform. And then you'll be able to magnetize and attract the people you want in your life.
Hey, one last question. So I just put a crown on your head, Henry. You're like the king of the world. And now you're looking around, you see all the stuff that's going on in particularly with men and having unhealthy situations in their life. If you have this magic wand, what would you, if you could do one thing that you think would help a lot of guys out there become more healthy, what do you think that one thing would be that you would do to make people, or guys in particular, more healthy?
You can relate to this. My answer: if I had a magic wand, if I could help people get a sense and experience their real self, or their actualized self, as Abraham Maslow referred to it,
Yeah.
You know, and have a genuine peak experience and not get there through the use of drugs, because drugs is a very unsafe way to get there. If people can have a peak experience where they get a sense of, and they know who they are in relation to the world, then they are personally transformed forever. And if they have that personal transformation and remember how great it felt at that moment, doing whatever it is they were doing, they would have a much better idea as to what their purpose was in this life. And if people had a purpose in this life and experienced the joy of that purpose in that moment, then they would have something to really live for themselves. And so if I had that capability, I would like people to have that personal transformational experience, which is why at the beginning, before we recorded, I was telling you about my own passion that I had a long time ago to have people tell me about their self-transformational experiences. Because I think people remember them. They'll remember what their real identity is and what they're really meant to do in this world.
Have this vision of guys rising up to that and saying, you know, okay, now I understand. Now I see what I'm supposed to be doing, and the transformation that would happen in our country, in our society, in our communities would be dramatic. So that's a pretty good magic wand wish list right there. Hey, I know you have a lot of things going on in your life, and so I'd like to just wrap this up with any parting thoughts that you have regarding men's health. But then also, if you're working on any projects or whatever you're doing in your life, if you want people to get in contact or engage with what you're doing, leave whatever you feel is comfortable, and I'll also copy that and put it in our notes for this podcast. But if you could just kind of wrap this up with how people can get a hold of you and what you're working on these days, that'd be great.
Sure. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your book and it becoming a #1 Amazon bestseller in the health category and focusing on men's health unabashedly. So that was awesome. Hats off
that
to
was
you.
Good.
And I know that was a long-term project and some great marketing as well. But I want to also say that, you know, men have a critical role to play in family, as fathers, as in marriage, in our community, in society. And I like the fact that you uphold the role of man in society, which is kind of going against the cultural grain. But men have a very, very valuable role to play. And supporting that role is really critical. So I want to just congratulate you in doing that. And I hope that men can affirm their role as father, protector, breadwinner, co-parent, brother, son, so forth. So in terms of any parting words for men, I mean, be proud of the fact that you are who you are. Be proud of your accomplishments. The only way to develop real sense of self-esteem and confidence is through action. You got to live what you believe. It's not enough to just talk about it. It's not enough to just simply write it down on a piece of paper. We have to live it, and we achieve it. And when we achieve it, we know it, and we become it. And no one can take that away unless you want to give it up personally. No one can take that experience from you as to who you are. So just live an authentic life. Have a clear idea of who you want to be, who you are, and pursue it. Don't let anything get in the way. And being healthy will help you achieve that. Getting a hold of me. If you want to get a hold of me, best ways to do it, the simplest ways to do it is on Facebook and Twitter. It's facebook.com/Henry Kriegel, HENRY KRIEGEL. And same with Twitter, twitter.com/Henry Kriegel. That's the easiest way to do it.
You've been listening to The 4 Pillars of Men's Health with Dave Skattum. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit the4pillarsofmenshealth.com.